Okay, good morning and welcome to our power class, the day after Shavuot. We just had a beautiful 48-hour holiday, beautiful holiday of Shavuot, and now we are going into a new week. We actually read Parshat Naso for the second time. We read it last week as well, so let's go straight. I want to share the screen over here. Let's go straight into the Parsha. Okay, so it says like this. It was on the day that Moses finished establishing the Mishkan, the sanctuary. This was a temporary temple, basically, in the desert. So verse number 1 tells us he just finished doing everything. ויקריבו נשיאי ישראל ראשי בית אבותם הם נשיאי המטות הם העמודים להפקדים. What happened is each tribe had a nasi, had a head of the tribe. So the head of the tribe of Reuben, the head of the tribe of Shimon, there were 12 tribes in total. These tribes were, Rashi explains over here, they were the officers appointed over them in Egypt, and they were basically the Egyptians appointed taskmasters, Jewish policemen, so to speak, to police the Jewish people. And these people were chosen for that job, and basically they never hit the Jews. They took upon the punishment themselves, basically. So they were rewarded later on. So verse number 3 says, "Vayaviu et korbanam lifnei Hashem." What was their sacrifice? What was their offering to God? What did they contribute to God? So they brought shesh eglot tzav, which is 6 wagons, ushnei asar bakar, and 12 oxes. Al shnei hanesiim v'shor le'echad v'ikrivu otam l'shnei mishkan. Let me explain what's going on over here. When the temple, when Moses needed donations for the sanctuary, for the Mishkan, he asked the Jews to contribute, and it was the only fundraising campaign in the entire history of the universe where Moses had to say, you know what, Jews, you've given enough. Please don't give us any more. We have enough. The Nesi'im, the heads of the tribes, they didn't contribute in the beginning. They said, you know what, let the Jews contribute whatever they wanted, and whatever's left over, we will finish it off. So they thought they would be generous. In the end, they weren't needed at all. So they said, what should we give? So Moses gave them this task. They gave basically 6 wagons. That means that each tribe gave a half a wagon. Right? There were 12 tribes, so 12 Nesi'im, 12 leaders of the tribe. Each one gave a half a wagon, and each one gave 1 ox to drive the wagon. So there were 2 oxes which were steering 1 wagon. What were these wagons used for? They were used to transport the Mishkan from place to place. In the desert, there were a lot of times that they traveled from place to place, and they basically used these wagons and the oxes to travel. The Talmud tells us that there was actually piles of beams, and that the Mishkan was a whole big thing. There were piles and piles of beams on top of the wagons. In fact, it would be piled up so high that you'd have to have a Levite running, so to speak, right behind the wagon to ensure that nothing fell off. It was as if the question is, why couldn't God ask the Nesi'im, the leaders of the tribe, to contribute more oxes, more wagons? Why did you have to have it piled so high that a Levite would have to run behind, and literally whenever the pile would come, would about to tumble over, he'd have to fix it quickly and right it? Why couldn't they be more generous and contribute more? The Nesi'im would have gladly done it, but God said, no, this is fine, we don't need it. And there's a tremendous lesson here. Tremendous lesson. The lesson is that God says, I created every single item in this world for a purpose, for a reason. Every single thing is exact. In order to transport the Mishkan, it was enough to have exactly 6 wagons with 12 oxes. Then that's all I need. Every single person in this world has a mission. Every single thing in this world was created for a purpose, and that purpose is exact. And this message is honed in from this story of the wagons. You see, every single one of us, was created for a purpose. There's a mission that only I can fulfill in this world. Nobody else can fulfill my mission in the world. There's a mission that you can fulfill, and nobody else can fulfill that mission. Even though, let's say you're a doctor, there's many doctors, and there's many people who contribute and do what you do. No, says God, there's something unique that you do, only you do, and nobody else in the entire universe can do it. You know, the Medrash relates that King David once asked God, I don't understand why you created spiders. Spiders, what purpose can spiders possibly fulfill in this world? So God said to him, okay, I'll show you. So the story was, David was still, he was appointed a king, but he wasn't king yet. Shaul, his father-in-law, was king, and Shaul was hunting down David. He wanted to kill him. So he sent his army to find David. And one time David was hiding in a cave. And there were soldiers of Shaul who were approaching that cave, and there's no way they would have missed it. They would have gone in, they would have found him, and they would have killed him. And God sent a spider to spin a web right on the entrance of the cave. So David was inside, and the spider spun its web. And when the soldiers of Shaul came to that particular cave, they figured there's no way David is inside, because the web looks like it's a very old web. There's no way he's inside. So they didn't bother checking. So King David comes out and he says to God, I see now why you created this spider. It serves a purpose. It actually saved my life. But not only that, God created every single person with a mission. For example, every single person has a shidduch, has a soulmate. You know, it says that Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta was once approached by a wealthy Roman noble lady. And she said to him, what is God doing since the 6 days of creation? I understand he created the world in 6 days, but what is he doing since then? So he said to her, God is making shidduchim. He's making shidduchim, making a shidduch between boys and girls. He's marrying them off. So she says to him, well, that's so easy. I could do it. So she takes 1,000 of her slaves. She says, okay, you marry this one, you marry this one, you marry this one. She said she married 1,000 people in one night. And she said to Rabbi Yossi, you see how I did it? It's so easy. The next morning, these 1,000 slaves all come to her complaining. This one has a broken hand, this one has a broken leg, a broken eye, a black eye. Each one of them didn't get along with the spouses that she made for them. So she said to Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta the next morning, aha, now I see how God, he literally figures out who to mate, so to speak, one with the other. So not just every being has a creation, everybody has a purpose, but also every single thing was created exactly to measure and to fit. Every single man is given exact spouse to fit every single woman. They fit exactly. That's how God created the world. And not just that, we all have certain strengths and talents that we were given, that only we could utilize those talents in the best and most effective way. For example, the Talmud tells a story that Rabbi Meir was once giving a class on a Friday night. I think it was near the city of Tiberia. And there was a woman who enjoyed his class very much, and she went and she stayed and she stayed and she came home late. And her husband asked her, where were you? And she says, I was at a class. So her husband got so angry, he said, I swear to you that you cannot come back into my house until you spit in that rabbi's face. So the woman went outside distraught. She didn't know what to do. She's not going to spit in Rabbi Meir, the holy Rabbi Meir's face. So one of her friends saw her. She told her the story, and the friend said, come to Rabbi Meir, let's talk about it. So they went and they found Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Meir sensed with his supreme talents what the story was. So he was able to utilize his talents to figure out a creative solution. And he said to them as they approached, he said, my eye is hurting me, a tremendous pain in my eye, and I need somebody to spit 7 times in my eye, and that will cure my eye. So what happened was the woman then spat 7 times in his eye, and he said, my eye is cured. And when his students heard the story, they told him, Rabbi Meir, why on earth would you humiliate, degrade yourself to be spat at 7 times? We would have spoken to this man, and we would have forced him to accept his wife back into the house. So Rabbi Meir says in this week's Parshat in Naso, we read that God is willing to have his name erased. The whole story with the Sotah, which maybe we'll give a class on this week, the whole story with the Sotah is that God is willing to have his name erased in order to make shalom bayit, in order to have peace between husband and wife. So Rabbi Meir says, if God himself is willing to have his name erased, shall I not be willing to degrade and humiliate myself a little bit to be spat at so that it will bring peace between husband and wife? You see the message from the story of the Levites. The message from this story that we read in the Parsha is that God made sure that the donation that the Levite brought of 6 wagons and 12 oxen, even though the Levite would have to run behind it and ensure that nothing fell, but nonetheless, in this way, it was exactly to measure. There wasn't anything extra. It wasn't extravagant, but it was exactly to fit. God created everything in this world for a purpose, for a mission. Every one of us, every animal, every creature, talents that we have, shidduchim, marriages that we have, everything in this world is created exactly to measure. May we all fulfill our mission in the world. From tomorrow, I'm going to move this class. Instead of having it at 9 a.m. every morning, we're going to do it at 7:30 p.m. every night. It's recorded, it's put on YouTube and Facebook, so whoever can't make it the exact time, but we're going to change the hour to 7:30 p.m. starting from tomorrow, Monday, every single night, 7:30 p.m. for 10 minutes. Hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day.